You know, it's been a long time since we've had an appearance on the show by our friend Jack. No, not Jack in the Box. No, not Jack Skellington, but Jack Eichel. We're talking today about the NHL's biggest trade story of the past few months. So much to the point that it doesn't really even feel like a story anymore. It's just kind of the status of the world at the moment. But we had ourselves what was a quickie article from Elliotte Friedman the other day that kind of gave us a pretty interesting look to the whole Eichel situation. Now, this is the article from a few days ago that was talking about the Tyler Bozak Pittsburgh Penguins situation. That didn't work out, by the way. He re-signed in St. Louis for a very cheap AAV. But that piece also had a few other tidbits from around the National Hockey League, and the Buffalo Sabres captain, Jack Eichel, second overall pick of the 2015 draft, was indeed involved in the piece. It was actually the headline if you're going ahead and reading this yourself over here. Link is in the description, by the way, if you want to do that. The update we had from Friedman, though, was a pretty good one. He says that he believes that teams that have been in the Jack Eichel sweepstakes earlier on in the year might actually be re-entering negotiations around this time frame. That's not to say that this team, that team, or the other team, they're talking about it again. They're going out there, they're trying to make a trade right now, it's going to happen in the next week. That's not what he's saying right here. He's just saying that teams that might have been pushed away in the past because the trade price is too high, or they just kind of lost interest in Eichel, maybe this is the time when teams start to talk about it a little bit more again because, okay, the season's coming up, we kind of know what NHL rosters are looking like around the league, so maybe this is the time that a team that was interested in Eichel before goes out there and talks about him again, tries to negotiate something again, and maybe tries to get those talks going. This is why we had ourselves an article from Vegas Hockey Now earlier in the week saying this: the Golden Knights should roll the dice on Jack Eichel. Now, the Golden Knights are a very interesting team because they have indeed been involved in the Jack Eichel sweepstakes previously. We had ourselves an entire video going about with the Golden Knights and how they have themselves some pretty okay centers, and I say okay as in yeah, they're pretty much just okay. Let's go position by position to go over the names because it's not really their strongest position, and it's not even really close. Their winger depth, pretty good. Pacioretty, Stone, Smith, Marchessault, pretty good guys over there. Their defense, hey, these guys are really capable. They know how to shut the play down. They know how to get physical, and they can produce points. Goaltending with Fleury and Lehner, well, Fleury before, not really so much anymore. Still, Lehner's pretty good, though. You have yourselves what is a pretty good all-around team, except down the middle. Chandler Stevenson, William Karlsson, Nick Waugh, Nolan Patrick now, when you had Alex Tuch who could also play center a little bit. This team isn't really the best down the middle, which is why if you want to go out there and get yourselves the number one piece to be your top-line center, Jack Eichel could be that guy, which is why the Golden Knights have been involved in this trade process in the past. The Golden Knights may or may not be present in these trade talks, but perhaps they should be in the mix. This article goes over the entire plethora of reasons as to why you would want to get Eichel on Vegas. It's a pretty basic rundown. I mean, a bona fide number one center. It talks about how he's really good, how he produces compared to the centers that the Golden Knights have right now. He is a superstar, which is always nice to see. But one of the more interesting points is the third one over here. Let's go ahead and read this familiar representation point that the article brings up. Jack Eichel changed agents last month, signing with Pat Brisson, one of the most powerful in hockey. The Golden Knights do have a relationship of sorts with Brisson. They drafted his son Brendan 2 years ago in the first round of the draft, and I'm not saying that connection means anything and that it gives Vegas an inside track. It likely doesn't. But it also doesn't hurt to know the person across the table you're negotiating with. This was a really big deal, because Pat Brisson is kind of one of the biggest dogs in the free agent market when it comes to signings and representation and all that. He has some very wealthy clients in the National Hockey League, and Jack Eichel is one of many on that list. And it's kind of obvious the way things have gone down that Brisson is going to be in a position where, hey, he's going to go out there, he's going to talk to teams, he's going to be like, hey, I got a client over here, you want him? This is what he's going to bring you, here's what it's going to cost. Which is something that the Eichel party from before wasn't really able to do properly, which is kind of why he's still on the team. There's still that entire controversy with the surgery, whether or not he's going to be able to get it, and how it's now a little bit too late for him to get it and actually start the season on time. So it's pretty ugly, but Brisson is in here, so we will see where the story goes. The article talks about some potential trade ideas. It would likely mean breaking up part of the roster if you wanted to go out there and acquire a Jack Eichel. It would certainly mean giving up prospects and draft picks, something Buffalo would undoubtedly insist upon. Jack Eichel's AAV is $10 million, so you're going to have to move some pieces to clear the cap space to accommodate him. Would the Sabres take Reilly Smith, who is an unrestricted free agent after this season, or Jonathan Marchessault, who has 3 years left of term, each of whom makes $5 million? Would they be willing to take Alex Tuch, who is from the Syracuse area and rooted for Buffalo as a kid? Tuch makes $4.75 million, but he is out on LTIR following shoulder surgery, and he would not be available until mid-season. Yeah, that's not really all too great now, isn't it? They would likely want Peyton Krebs, or a couple of other prospects, and they would probably insist on Vegas' first or second round picks in 2022, 3, or 4. Now, before we actually go over and discuss what they could give up, I wanted to bring your attention to something else that we had earlier on in the offseason. This is a tweet from Ryan Kennedy of the Hockey News back from July 27th, so this is a few months ago. I'm hearing the Buffalo ask for Eichel for Vegas is Smith, Krebs, Nick Hague, and a first-round pick. Now, this was back in July, as we noted, so the timing of this tweet and the package that is represented, apparently, according to the Hockey News writer over here, it is somewhat accurate with the package that we had been highlighted before as to what the Sabres would have wanted for Jack Eichel. The package we had in our minds was 4 first-round caliber assets, a top 6 forward, a top 4 D-man, a top prospect, and a first-round pick. Hey, guess what? This trade request kind of aligns just pretty much on the dot over there. Reilly Smith is indeed a great NHL forward. He's a top 6 caliber player from Florida who went over to Vegas. He's pretty much a lock for 20 goals in a full season, and he could get 50 plus points. Nick Hague is a guy over here who is a pretty young guy too. Drafted in 2017, he's a big left-handed defenseman who could also produce quite a few points. He had 17 in 52 games last season, not bad in the slightest, and who has a pretty physical, demeaning shutdown game as well. You also have Peyton Krebs, who is probably the top prospect in the Vegas Golden Knights system right now. He is fantastic. I think he has elite potential. He could be a first-line player if everything goes right. I love Peyton Krebs, man. I've been raving about this guy ever since before the 2019 draft. He has got work ethic, he's got skill, he's got compete. He is ballistic out there, which is why it's definitely not a surprise that if you're going out there in Jack Eichel trade talks, he would be one of the first guys the Buffalo Sabres would have asked for. And then, of course, you have the first-round pick that would have been from Vegas, but, I mean, come on, it's from Vegas. It would probably be somewhere 23 plus, if not 31st overall. Not really the best deal, I think, if you're going to go out there and look for a first-round pick, but either way, Krebs, Smith, Hague, a first. Definitely not a bad package that we had earlier on in the year, but with the way things have gone down with how Jack Eichel's value is apparently lower because of the entire surgery situation and because of how the Buffalo Sabres are pretty handcuffed in this ordeal in its entirety, there is something inside of me that says, if this was the price before, who knows if the Buffalo Sabres would be okay with going out there and maybe taking something like this or maybe a little bit less now. Eichel's value is at an all-time low, and if the Vegas Golden Knights rejected this offer before, because if this was an offer that the Vegas Golden Knights would have been able to do, it would have been done by now. It would have been done back in July. Hague, Krebs, Smith, and a first for Jack Eichel, but of course, with how things have gone down, it is easy to see that Vegas was not comfortable with this, which is why the trade hadn't been done. This article is bringing up the idea of maybe it's just Smith, maybe you have Marchessault, maybe it's Tuch, maybe with a little bit more stuff, second-round picks in 2022 or 2023 or 2024, maybe there isn't even another guy like a Hague involved in the deal in general. Overall, it is a pretty interesting idea. It is one that I think is probably the scariest out of the bunch because, you know, with teams like New York, teams like Columbus, teams like even Montreal, I mean, they went to the finals, but still, these teams are not really powerhouses in the minds of most hockey fans. When you think powerhouse, you think, okay, Colorado, you think Tampa Bay, you think Vegas, you think these teams that consistently win and win and win and win and win, and Vegas, without a top center with the caliber of Jack Eichel, have already been doing that. So it is scary for me as a Vancouver Canucks fan to say, okay, Eichel to Vegas? Oh, that'd be pretty bad for my hockey team, wouldn't it be? But either way, talk to me in the comments. What do you think? I will leave a link in the description to the Jack Eichel update from Elliotte Friedman, as well as this Vegas Hockey Now article. Do you think Eichel over to Vegas is a possibility at this point if they do indeed renegotiate these terms? What do you think about the former trade price that the Golden Knights apparently rejected of Haig, Krebs, a first, and Reilly Smith? Do you think that would change? Do you think it's a little bit less now? Talk to me in the comments about all that stuff. I hope you enjoyed this British Trolls 99. And bye.